10 Philosophy Terms and Concepts. Part 2. Possible Worlds and Counterfactuals. In philosophy, possible worlds are a way of imagining how things could have been different from how they actually are, including what could have happened and what must have happened. Possible worlds are generally not proposed as real physical alternate universes, but instead as useful tools for thinking about necessity and contingency. Counterfactuals are what-if statements that explore these possibilities. To judge whether a counterfactual is true, philosophers compare the actual world to the closest possible worlds where the first part of the statement is true. This helps explain ideas regarding cause and effect, choice, and responsibility. For example, if the match had been struck, it would have lit. Means that in the nearest possible worlds where the match was struck under the same conditions, it catches fire. Necessity and contingency. In philosophy, necessity and contingency describe two fundamental modes of truth and existence. A necessary truth is one that could not be otherwise. It holds in all possible circumstances. The statement, Kevin is necessary. There is no situation in which it could be false. A contingent truth, however, is something that happens to be the case, but might not have been. The truth, there is life on Earth, is contingent, not logically required. Things could have unfolded differently, the universe shaped differently, by which Earth would remain barren. This distinction between necessity and contingency helps philosophers evaluate the structure of reality by distinguishing what is absolutely fixed from what pertains to change, chance, and possibility. Necessitarianism. Necessitarianism is the philosophical view that everything happens with absolute necessity. Given the way the world is, nothing could have ever unfolded differently. In this view, contingency is an illusion. Every event, choice, and outcome is bound within an unbreakable causal chain, leaving no room for genuine alternatives. If you are watching this right now, necessitarianism holds that it is not merely possible, but inevitable that you're doing so. This perspective challenges common intuitions about free will and chance, suggesting instead that reality is a seamless whole in which every detail is fixed, not by fate or randomness, but by the logical and causal structure of existence itself. Synthetic versus analytic. In philosophy, the distinction between synthetic judgments and analytic judgments concerns how a statement's truth is determined. An analytic judgment is true by virtue of meaning alone. The predicate is already contained in the subject, like in the statement, all bachelors are unmarried. The concept of being unmarried is built into the very definition of bachelor. A synthetic judgment, on the other hand, adds new information not contained in the concept itself, such as all bachelors are lazy, which depends on experience and observation rather than definition. Analytic truths unfold what is implicit in a concept, whilst synthetic truths extend our knowledge to features of the world. Frege's puzzle. Frege's puzzle in the philosophy of language explains how two different expressions can refer to the same thing, yet convey different information. In everyday language, we often use distinct expressions that point to the same object in reality. A famous example is the ancient discovery that the morning star and the evening star are in fact one and the same planet, Venus. On the face of it, the statement, the morning star is the evening star, feels like a genuine scientific discovery, informative and educational. Whereas the statement, the morning star is the morning star, seems trivial and obvious. Yet, if both the morning star and the evening star refer to the exact same thing, why does the first identity statement seem more meaningful than the second? Logically, these two statements are equivalent, as one can simply substitute the evening star in the first statement with the morning star to make the two statements identical. This tension between sameness of reference and difference in cognitive significance is the heart of Frege's puzzle. Sense and reference. Sense and reference are two aspects of meaning distinguished in Frege's original solution to his puzzle. The reference of an expression is the actual object it designates. Both the morning star and the evening star refer to the same planet Venus. However, each expression has a different sense, which is the particular way in which the object is presented to the mind. One as the bright star seen at dawn, the other as the bright star seen at dusk. Because the senses differ, a statement like the morning star is the evening star is genuinely informative, despite both terms referring to the same thing. By this proposed solution, Frege aims to show that meaning involves not just the objects that words point to within our world, but also how those words present those objects to us. The hard problem of consciousness. Coined and popularized by philosopher of mind David Chalmers, the hard problem of consciousness highlights a striking gap between physical explanations of the brain and the felt quality of experience itself. Science can increasingly describe how neurons fire, how information is processed, and how sensory signals travel. But it seems yet unable to explain why those processes are accompanied by inner experience. This includes how we perceive the redness of red, the sting of pain, the warmth of sunlight on our skin. Neuroscientists can map which brain regions activate when you taste chocolate, but they're unable to tell us why tasting chocolate feels the way it does from the inside. This gap between explaining function and explaining subjective experience, between the mechanics of the brain and the presence of conscious awareness, is what makes it a hard problem. In fact, one of the most profound mysteries of contemporary philosophy. Empiricism. Empiricism is the philosophical view that all knowledge comes from experience, particularly through the senses. According to this tradition, the mind begins not as a storage space of built-in truths, but as a blank slate, gradually filled by what we see, hear, smell, taste, and feel. For example, our understanding of fire, its warmth, its danger, its light, comes not from abstract reasoning, but from repeated encounters with it in the physical world. Empiricists emphasize that ideas, concepts, and even scientific principles are grounded in observation and experience rather than in pure reason. At its core, empiricism insists that to know reality, we must engage with it directly through sensory evidence. Rationalism. Rationalism is the philosophical view that reason itself, independent of sensory experience, sets the foundation for the most certain and important knowledge. Rationalists argue that some truths, such as principles of math, are innate and can be discovered purely by the intellect. To a rationalist, these do not depend on observation, but on logical necessity. For instance, we know that 571 plus 429 is equal to 1,000 without having to gather and count that many objects in the physical world. This truth is grasped through thought and reasoning alone. Rationalists hold that the mind has built-in structures and systems that allow it to uncover truths about reality that experience by itself could never guarantee. Rationalism affirms that human reason is not just a tool for organizing sensory data, but a direct path to understanding the deeper order of reality. The liar's paradox. The liar's paradox is a classic problem in philosophy and logic that arises when a statement refers to itself in a way that makes it impossible to determine whether it is true or false. Here is the simplest form of such. This sentence is false. If such a statement is true, then what it says must hold, meaning it is false. Yet, if it is false, then it is false that this sentence is false, which would make it true. This is a paradoxical loop in which truth and falsity chase each other endlessly, undermining our standard assignment of truth values to statements. Philosophers and logicians believe for the liar's paradox to reveal deep complications regarding self-reference, language, and foundations of truth. Quote of the day: "The unexamined life is not worth living." Socrates.